Hello everybody, nice that you tuned into this Aeronautica Imperialis Orc Bad Moon Fighta Bomber tutorial and a little advice to my German audience. Danke, dass ihr eingeschaltet habt. Den Link zur deutschen vertonten Variante findet ihr unten in der Videobeschreibung. Klickt da einfach mal hin, vielleicht könnt ihr dann dem Ganzen etwas besser folgen. Zurück zum Englischen. Back to English. The set Wings of Vengeance was sponsored by Wraken Wargames. They are releasing a Gamingmat soon and you can get hold of it in the German store fantasywelt.de. All the links are in the video description, and as you may have mentioned, I am a native German speaking person. If I mess up with the English words, please excuse, but I try to bring you this tutorial in an English dubbed version so you can follow the steps easier than on the German video. So I started with the models. I primed Rattlecan Corax white, and after this color has set, I sprayed it with Averland Sunset. In this part I used my airbrush Vallejo Model Air, a brown tone and a yellow tone mixed for a slightly brownish orange to spray the lower parts of the airplane to get a nice color variation if you see it from the side. So all the downside parts and the back parts of the wings are sprayed in this color. The correct numbers on all the colors and the names of the colors you can find in the video description, so please go down there and take a look so that I can tell you, okay, I use a brown, and you can go down in the video description and get the correct number, or I can tell you, now I use an orange, like Jokaero orange. Maybe you use the Army Painter or Vallejo color range, so you know which color tone it is. In the next step, I use the Vallejo Model Air yellow that I mixed previously with the brown to bring back this yellow tone on the wings and on the whole aircraft structure, and to prepare for the first highlight. All in all, I must say I get for a really weathered, rusted effect, so I get the highlights a bit higher than usual, so keep that in mind when you paint this model. So the next part is the yellow tone plus a white tone on the airbrush, 2 parts yellow, 1 part white, and I highlighted the front parts of the wings and the main structure upper part. After this airbrush step has set, I get it varnish coat with Monitorum varnish to get the model a bit harder, so that there is no chipping afterwards by grabbing the model. And I put down a heavy dry brush with an orange tone, a Jokaero orange by Citadel, so that the highlights are set on the downside part of the whole aircraft. In this video sometimes I move a bit out of focus, or the camera lens is not perfectly in focus. I hope you could look over this. I got a new camera and new camera angle, and the setting and on which range I hold my miniature in relation to the camera. It's a bit tricky, so I hope you could forgive me my little technical mistakes. The upper part, the yellow parts of the plane, are now dry brushed with a bone tone, and this was Ushabti bone, or maybe you could use a screaming skull if you want a bit more of the highlights. And after that I use recess shading with a light brownish orange sepia tone, so this is Citadel's Seraphim Sepia. So all the recesses are painted with this, and if you go on the aircraft, on the big parts, and you want to you want to feather it a bit, you can wash out your brush and with the water dampened brush go over this part again, and you see that the shade will set smoothly across the whole surface. So these are the main shading parts you do. The rest of the shading will work with the weathering that's coming later, and the upper part is done. For the lower part of the aircraft I use Reikland Flash Shade, a reddish, dark reddish shade, and here it's nearly a recess paint, a recess shade, but not so precise. It could be a bit more rough down here and on the bottom part of the plane. And as you see, while I'm shading this, you can see that the shade sucks up a bit of the highlight that you brushed on. So if you're not fine with this, go back and brush one time again so that the highlight is even sharper. After the main steps, because these are the main steps for the aircraft, has been done, I use all the colors for all the details, like these little teeth, flamey things on the backside of the wing. I use a dark red. In this case it's Khorne red by Citadel. This little arrow on the front and the teeth that are on the airplane's front side. Maybe there are some other glyphs down below or on the wings. There are several different sculpts in the set, so it's your choosing where you set all the colors and put down all the fine detail work. The next thing is the engine compartments. It is Warplock bronze, a dark bronze tone on all these pieces on the piping and the thrusters of the engine. So simple, put down your color and you're fine with it. And maybe you wanna get the cockpit's casing in a metal tone, so feel free to add this also to your paint job. A really important thing is that you don't mess up the whole detail work and other painting steps that are coming now and in the future, because the main color of the plane is set. There will be nothing, mostly nothing added, so be careful, and if you mess up, directly take a wet brush and then wash the not even slightly dried color away, so you can rescue your surfaces. All the shooters are painted with a dark silver tone. In this case it's Iron Warrior, and the next step will be the additional armor in front of all the wings. It is a grayish white, an off-white, in this case Celersta gray. So I prepare all the areas where I want to do some decal work with this checkerboard style. If you want to go pure Bad Moons, you can leave this step and put the checkerboards directly on this yellow part, so you get a yellow-black checkerboard. I personally like it the old school way, where no matter the clan, it's always black and white checkerboard, so I prefer this method. You also can go for flame decals or these toothy decals, it doesn't matter. Same here, if you want to go with a yellow undercoat, it's fine, or you go with this white layer. Maybe it could be fine if you go even with a red-white or red-black checkerboard, but I don't think it's very Bad Moony this way. So all these parts are painted in Celersta Grey, and I shut up for a while. So the next step is Agrax Earth Shade on all these little metal bits that we painted previously to give it a bit of depth and to get a little bit more of separation from the other surfaces that surround the metal bits. Just paint it on straightly right out of the bottle. But on this occasion I must say all my colors, layer, base, shades or whatever from Citadel are diluted in their pots with some of the Lamia medium, so that they are a bit thinner. I'm not a fan of wet palettes or stuff, so I dilute all my colors in the pots so that you don't get confused. As some famous painting guys say, to thin coats, I've got thin color right off the pot. So little exclamation for this. Next thing is the engine compartments. I use massing bronze, a brass bronze, so tone. It is cigarette bronze, and I got all these engine compartments. The big engine block underneath the plane is kinda dry brushed in a very low angle. I pull the brush over the compartments so that the deeper areas are left in the Warplock bronze. This needs 1 or 2 coats, depends on how strong you want this bronze tone to be for your highlights. And after that there would be a bit of weathering. I use a pigment powder, brownish pigment powder. This one is by Tabletop Basement, but they don't produce it anymore, so I'm sorry. Maybe you could do an equal color on AK Interactive's pigments. And I put down these pigments with water dilution on all the metal parts to get a bit of rust down there, a rusty effect. And after this is done and needs to dry, I take a turquoise color, in this case Nihilak Oxide technical color, and get a bit of weathering on all the engine compartments. I put down a bit of the Nihilak Oxide, wash out my brush, and with a water dampened brush I go over the parts, cause I think in this scale too harsh color variation like this weathering stuff would be a bit misfit. So I think this bit smoother finish on the weathering would be better for this, suited better for this, and I go over all the engine compartments, cause I think orcs don't get so deep into maintenance for their aircraft, or at least all their techniques. And the small grot hands that are polishing all the stuff in between missions are not that big that they can polish the whole plane before their pilots go to war again. So I think a weathered orc craft or vehicle is the best you can go. If the Nihilak Oxide part is too hard or too much oxidation, you could go back to cigarette bronze and work a bit of the color back, so don't be afraid to use this technical color. At this point I want to apply all the decals on this plane, and I start with a gloss varnish on the parts where the decals would go. This time it's Art Coat by Citadel, and I gloss all the parts where the decals should go. The nose, the wings front part and right left flank in the back. So I can apply checkerboards and this small Bad Moon symbol on the nose and the flanks. Get it a bit wet, put the transfer down, and then I coat it again with art coat so that it's fixed in place and yeah, the decal is safe. So after all decals are set down, it looked like this, and I apply a coat of thinner medium, a matte thinner medium, Lamian medium in this case, to get rid of the shine, of the art coat's glossy shine. And as you can see, the decals don't fit really. In the box there was not enough decals to get all the checkerboard done on all the places. So I must improvise and paint some more of this structure down. After the Lamian medium have dried, I will exactly do this. I use Abaddon black and get some more squares down on the white parts and add to the checkered effect. So this will go from the upside, from the downside. And the good thing, if you don't do it precisely, if you don't get a steady hand, it's not bad. Firstly, it's orc glyphs or orc paintings, so that they don't need to be straight as hell. And secondly, we do weathering soon, so that you can hide or cheat a bit on this effect. The next thing that's a bit blurred, it's Ulthuan Grey, really bright bluish grey, to get back some of the white squares on the upper part of the plane. So, cause I think it would be not enough if these checkerboard are not striking. It's really Warhammery if they are bam in your face, so I like it this way. On some detail work, I use a lighter red, Mephiston red, on all the red parts to give it a highlight from the upper side. These little added pieces on the wings and the teeth in front. And after that, I use a little bit of a red-orange, Wildrider red, to get the highlights on the edges. But for this scale, I don't use straight lines on the edges, so I use little dots around the edge to give it the feel of a bit beaten metal, so that the reflection on these parts modifies a bit. So it's not the straight highlight like in the 28mm scale. On this scale, I think the complete highlights don't look right. They look a bit weird. And I get these stippled, a bit beaten metal-like look down there, as you see here. If you got big areas of paint, you could paint in fine lines, like there is a scratch, and even this would contribute to a good weathered or beaten up effect. Next thing, weathering. The thing I like most about these little machines. I use a mustard yellow tone Averland sunset and a sponge and stipple on this color. This got two effects. Effect 1, it variates the color of the yellow surfaces, so it looks like there are all little notches and cracks in the color, so that the reflection pattern would deviate from the rest of the yellow parts. And you can use this that the upper painted layers of color, like the checkerboard or stuff, is scratched away on this occasion, and the down or the layer that lies a bit deeper, the yellow color layer, shows through. This whole step is then repeated with Steel Legion Drab darken beige tone, so that you get more of this color variation, and then after that with some stipples of Dryad bark, so that there are deeper cracks or cuts in the whole surfaces that are a bit rusted, so they are getting darker. And you could use Dryad bark to get the stippling from below the aircraft. All this is part technique to get these real gritty, real dark, orcish feeling on the plane or on the aircraft. If you like it cleaner, just leave these steps beside, so it would be okay, I think. And maybe you could use all these steps I show you in this tutorial on big aircraft, orc aircraft for Warhammer 40k in the 28mm scale. I would like to see it. Yes, if you use the same steps like in this tutorial for the bigger ones, just post a picture of your model under the link when you see it on Facebook in the Aeronautica Imperialis 2019 group. Yeah, and I think it works out nice. Next is Ushabti Bone, bony, yellowy, bony color, and I pick occasionally some highlights here and there, but it's the same method like on the back, on the wings, on the red parts. It's more partially light, short lines or little dots to get this beaten, rusted effect. And if before you ask, I can't tell you where I put all these highlights. It's like intuition. So I painted like, oh here and oh there, and there is no real scheme behind this. Next thing is an Emal wash Acre interactive rust streaks. Before I apply them, I fixed all the colors with a coat of Monitorum Varnish. And now I got lines from the front of the wing down in the down side, the down motion, down streaking motion, sorry, to the back of the aircraft. This could be applied from above, from below, on the front, on the back wings, to get this nice, yeah, weathered effect. I don't know how to call it better, and I think you can get what I am doing here. The whole enamel wash would be feathered out to the backside of the wings after this with AK Interactive Oderless Thinner. I use a dry brush, or from type dry brush, get a bit of Oderless Thinner on it and get some streaking motion from the middle part of the wing to the back of the wing, so that the whole streaks are feathered out more to the back of the plane. These are a subtle weathering, not so in your face or on your nose, but I think it works fine on this scale and give the plane a really, really weathered and really hard in action feel. You could add to the rust streaks some streaking grime. It's a more dark brown streak, but before you apply another streaking layer, get sure that you put down a varnish coat so that you don't wash away the other streaking layer. Now I apply some of the pigment powder. I dilute it with water again and put it down on some random areas on the plane to get even more weathered, even more battle-torn effects down there. And as you see, this rust layer works also as a bit of shading in the recesses. So keep in mind, we got many highlights in front, so with the dry brushing, and now all this is banded together with the recess shading, the weathering, the pigment powder and everything else, and it worked out fine, I think. after the pigments are applied, the biggest deal on this plane is done. After they are applied, I fix down all this pigment powder with another coat of monochrome varnish. Of course, keep in mind, pigment powder is like dust on your miniature, and if you grab on the parts that are coated in pigment powder, you could grab them away or rub them away. So it's very, very important to fix them before you go any further. Going on to some details, the shooters and custom shooters are painted with lead belcher, a little bit brighter silver tone than before, so that there are a little bit of highlighting. And all the engine compartments are touched slightly by lead belcher again to modify the color that the engine parts got. Next step is diluted Dryad bark, followed by Abaddon black to give a little bit of used and rusted or roughed up feeling to the end part of the engine compartment, to the exhausts, that they are a bit flame darkened or darkened by flames, so that the aircraft just looked used. I don't think an aircraft in the air without the burnt exhausts would look good, so I like this little effect that's really, really fast to be applied. Now, to go further, I use Skavenblight Dinge, a little bit of a warm grayish tone, to get a bit of highlights in the exhausts, so that they don't look just black, so that there are a little bit of color variation. And I use some dots, some stippling on the black checkerboard parts to give even them a little bit of weathered, worn effect. Torn effect, I mean. Agrax Earthshade, a dark brown shade for the downside of the aircraft to give a little bit of shading to the weapons, to the bombs, and to the overall look, cause I think this brownish orange that we got is a little bit too bright for the contrast to the yellow, so I darken it down like glazing. It's more a glaze, a glaze than a wash. Yeah, now Jokaero orange again to give the bombs a little bit of highlight, cause they are peeking out from underneath the wings, and I think they need a little bit of highlighting that they look painted, or you got this effect that, yeah, there are bombs, but why are there no highlights? That looks wrong. So I decided to do this, and the front of the air sucking part of the aircraft, don't know the English word, sorry, is painted with some Jokaero highlights also. Now, last but not least, the glass. Yes, it's my choice, and I like this like a little bit of a jewel effect or jewelry effect. And I paint all this with dark blue, Kantor blue. After that, I use light French blue, Alaitoc blue, and get the paint in the left upper part and the lines left and down the area, the surface area. Followed by a step with grayish blue, Fenrisian gray. That's a bit less. And after that, I get a line on top of the glass, or on the highest point of the glass, with Ulthuan gray to give the whole thing a nice reflection, and add in the right down corner another little dot to give it an extra reflection. So I think this is the way it looks the best. surely you can variate your colors. You don't need blue, you can go over greenish or reddish color variations, purple, black, grayish, even this is possible, but it need the same techniques, just the color variation. After that, I get a little bit of recess shading around the glass pieces with a heavily diluted Drakenhof Nightshade, a bluish shade. And after that, there's only one thing to do. Wait for it all to dry, give it a thick coat of Monitorum Varnish, the last color protecting step, and you get your fighter bomber done. I hope you like this tutorial. I hope that I don't mess up too much and you could follow the steps. And maybe you could speak German, or you like to learn speak German with some tabletop content, so you can watch all the videos on my channel. It's a native German speaking miniature wargaming and tabletop channel with battle reports, tutorials, some blogging, or better to say vlogging, and yeah, would be nice to see you there. Some mention again fantasywelt.de for the Aeronautica Imperialis mat 4x4, and Wraken Wargames, nice supporter with tabletop stuff or miniature wargaming stuff. And you can click on the videos left, right, up and down. These are old videos. Would be nice if you would watch them and leave a thumbs up. Thank you for watching, a lovely war, and keep on wargaming.